Today I will be showing you how to read and understand a research article. There are different databases that you can use to look up periodicals and scholarly journals such as Galileo, ERIC, or Google Scholar to name a few. I will show you how to find an article using ERIC, which is the Education Resources Information Center. Right? So let's say my topic is online learning. So I can go ahead and type that in the search bar, which I've already done. And then what I'm going to do is select peer reviewed only, as well as full text available on ERIC. And peer reviewed pretty much means that the person who wrote the article or the persons who wrote the article are experts on that topic, and that it has been reviewed by other experts in that field. You can also do an advanced search if you're looking for something more specific. So let's go ahead and find an article on online learning. All right. So there's a few things that I look for when trying to find an article. I look at the title of the article, I look at the authors and the time frame from which it was published or released, and I also read the summary that's included, as well as pay attention to the descriptors because they kind of give you an idea of what you're going to be reading about. So for example, this first one, it talks about distance education, electronic learning, COVID-19, and pandemics. So if I had to do some type of research based around online learning and the pandemic, I can just look at the descriptors and potentially find exactly what I'm looking for. Also, if we look over here to the right, it just lets you know again that it is peer reviewed, and you also have access to the entire document and you can download it as a PDF. So I'm just going to skim through and see if I can find one that really interests me. Okay, and so I see this one right here. It says Digital Divides, K through 12 Student Profiles and Online Learning. So I can again read this summary and look at the descriptors. So this is addressing elementary school students, secondary students, as well as electronic learning. So I'm going to go ahead and download that text. Okay, so once you have this text, your PDF downloaded, you have a few options. You can print it out, or if you're more tech savvy, you can download it and upload it into your Google Drive or your Microsoft, whatever you're using, and you can find a free annotation tool. So the first thing I like to do is I pay attention to the date that the article was written or released. I also pay attention to the title of the article as well as the authors. So on our first page, what we'll typically have is an abstract, and that's pretty much some background information on what the entire article is going to be about. So if I just skim it, sometimes you can find very important information, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start annotating. The tool that I'm using to annotate, it's from a website called annotate.net. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw, circle things that I feel like are important to note. So the first thing that I discover is the title. So I'm just going to draw an arrow, and I can just create a text box and just put title, or you can, draw it with the pen, whatever floats your boat. Okay, so that's the title. I can also identify that these are the authors. And now I'm just going to skim through the abstract, and I'm going to highlight some key information from it. So it says online learning for primary and secondary students has expanded significantly in the United States during the last 2 decades. Okay. In addition to the sustained growth of online learning, many schools and districts use online learning to respond to the coronavirus pandemic. So I'm going to underline this because I feel like that was really, really important. So basically, this is like a minor detail that I felt was important. So I'm just going to underline it. Okay, and I could just keep reading through and through and through just to kind of give me an idea of what I'm prepping to read. So what really stuck out, let's say I read the entire abstract. What I could do is I could write a brief summary of what I believe the article is going to be about. And then what I can do is after I read, I can come back to that and see if my initial idea matches with what I actually read, right? So the next thing I'm going to do is pay attention to some of these keywords just to make sure that I'm on the right track. So it includes K through 12 online learning, online courses, special education, coronavirus, and geography. So I feel like all of this information is what I was specifically looking for. So the cool thing about this article is it includes the website as well as some other social media platforms. So if I wanted to find other articles that are related or something, a different topic, I could just go to that website. As you're going through your article, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to the headings because they will give you an overview of what each section is going to be about. So as I'm going to the very first section or the first heading, I notice that this is the title. So this is going to be the introduction of the article. And pretty much what the introduction is, it lays out the foundation of what this article or journal is going to be about. So you want to make sure that you read through it. And as you're reading through it, you can go ahead and identify the key concepts that are going to be presented throughout the article. Right? So again, once you find them, you can highlight them, you can annotate by summarizing. So in this article, it gives me a brief overview of what online learning is and just the research behind it, and just to give me an idea of how online learning has increased as far as teachers implementing it in their own classroom, especially during the coronavirus pandemic. So I could read through this and get some information just so I can see how times have definitely changed. As I'm reading through a research article, there's a few things that I like to do to make the reading easier for me. So one of the major things I do is I pay attention to the headings, and I will go ahead and like section them off. Right? So I'm just going to take my pen and we'll just say that this is, let's say this is 1. So this is just the first topic, and I'll just put the number and circle it. The next thing I like to do before I actually read it, I will go ahead and chunk each section by creating a bracket like this for each paragraph, and I'll number it as well, and I'll just keep going through, right? Okay. So now what that does is it kind of like tricks my mind into thinking that I'm reading less than what's actually on the page. It may or may not work for you, but I just know this is what works best for me. So now what I'm able to do is I can thoroughly go through the first paragraph, read over it, and highlight any information that I feel is important. So let's just say that I think this information is important. I'll highlight it. Boom. I'm just going to do like a little quick highlight. Okay. So I highlight it. And then what I can actually do is out to the side, I can put my own notes or my own summary of what I read. Okay. And then I can just go to the next paragraph and repeat that same process. And you will also notice that there are citations within the article. So basically, once you go to the reference page, you can come at the bottom. You can go ahead and go to that article, journal, book, whatever it is. And if you want to read a little bit more, you're always welcome to do that. I would just continue to repeat that same process until I get to the end of my article. So now you notice with this section, we have a main heading and then we have like a subheading. So you want to pay attention to it because it's letting you know that, all right, whatever this research is about, there's some type of data that is included. And as you can see, here's a data table that just gives me classifications of geographic locale based off of the use of online learning. Once you get to the end of the article, you will notice that there's going to be a conclusion that pretty much sums up everything that you read. So what you can do is you can go back to annotating that by sectioning each paragraph off and trying to summarize, highlight, annotate, do whatever you have to do to help yourself better understand. And basically this conclusion is going to tie in all of those concepts that you learned about as you were reading. Once you get towards the bottom of the page, you're going to see the references that were included in the article, and you can always use these references if you want to delve a little bit deeper. So for example, this first reference is talking about student enrollment patterns and achievement in Ohio's online charter schools. So if you wanted to know how the students were thriving in a charter school once online learning was implemented, you can easily go to this resource. Also, there's information about the authors. So say you needed to reach out to them or you wanted to get a little bit more background information on them, this article includes that as well. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that I gave you more than enough information on how to read and understand articles.